Okay, it is May 26, 2022. Thank you, everyone. We have a fun day planned ahead with some world news from our good friend Will Barney. You'll be enjoying it. He's here with us today, and we'll get started. Um, this is a program of brilliance and commerce. There's no money involved, no admission. We're not selling anything. We're just having fun, just getting together, having fellowship, having a gathering of minds, and the privilege of discussion of the correct view of world events. Brilliance in Commerce is a project of La Verite, which means the truth in French, and House of Freedom International Natural Law Trust is our flagship product. Liberty Debt Elimination System is helping eliminate debts for people in the United States. And we have other affiliations and special offers. Members of the Worldwide Charter for Fair International Commerce. If you haven't looked at that, do so sometime on the website. You may like it. The principles there reflect what Will Barney stands for and all the good people who are helping to bring a better world and create a golden age. So today is the World Situation Update, development of the quantum financial system. And I'm going to go ahead and invite you, Will, to unmute and join us. I'm going to say, some say the world is going to hell. I say that's where we've been. Now we are awakening and rising above it.
That's awesome. Can you hear me, Johnson?
I can hear you loud and clear. There's my
excellent.
Bio. There's your bio. It's brief, short, and sweet, to the point. And let's go ahead. I'll back up for, let's go ahead and turn off the screen sharing, and we'll just let you let you be the.
That's all right. So I'm glad to be with you tonight. There's incredible things happening in the world. I think we last talked, it was almost a month ago, about a month ago. And lots happened in the month of May. It's been interesting. I was having some conversations with a colleague earlier today, and they were just stressed about what was happening. I said, don't worry, it gets better. And it will. It's going to get fantastic. So
no need for stress.
Yeah. It's amazing what's transpiring. So we're in the final stages. We're coming to a conclusion to all this. I know it seems like it goes on and on. As my friend was telling me earlier, I feel like it's total chaos, total madness. When does it end? Okay. It'll end when we get to the end. That's the short version, but honestly, we're so close to this. Now, a lot of things have happened that have been very unfortunate in the last few weeks. We've had two major shootings in the United States, in Buffalo, again in Texas. I don't want to, we should pray for these families. They're going through, their whole world's turned upside down, and we definitely should be, our hearts and minds should be with them. But we shouldn't dwell too much on the negativity that's being thrown out in desperation by our enemy. And it's really fascinating as we've watched the last couple of years unfold. If you remember in March of 2020, President Trump said that we are fighting an invisible enemy. And he meant a lot more than a virus. Although that was part of it, it was those who were behind it that was the invisible enemy. They're not invisible anymore. Everyone can see them now. They've come out of the shadows, and they've come out to present who they are. We had a very interesting display this week. I don't know if anybody's been following those that went to Davos. Personally, I don't follow these people. But if you did, you probably heard some frightening things. There were some snippets that I did catch, and they're just laying their full agenda out for us now. So it's out in the open for all to see. And this is the process we're in, where all of the darkness has to be revealed to the people for us to have the transition that we're all looking for. The incredible thing about this is, I started on this journey many years ago. I came out of banking. I got disillusioned by, honestly, the fraud in the system and those that were getting away with what I would call crimes. And there was no accountability. What's interesting about that is I went headlong into my humanitarian projects, and through that process began to speak with those that were involved in the reset that we are undergoing right now, and that would be funding those things. And they wanted to help me with my projects and various other things. So I've known about these changes for well beyond 10 years. And it does seem like a long journey when you go at it for that long. However, when you think about where we're going, the world we've been in, and where we're headed to the new world, to do that in 10 years is actually a pretty phenomenal undertaking. And it will be very different. Taunton, you and I tossed around some ideas of things we want to discuss tonight, and I'll go through some of these bullet points that we have on. Hopefully, you guys got the email. First one is, what does doing business in the new world look like? It's very different, folks. It's going to be, you're seeing some glimpses of it, though. Those of you that saw the about face of Netflix, where they sent a message to all their employees, hey, we're going to be taking on some projects. You may not like them. They may not be the woke you're used to. And if you're not happy with that, well, you can find another job. That was in direct response to the customers leaving Netflix. Netflix has a lot of customers, but they lost nearly 100 million subscribers. You can imagine that. Now they have a lot, so maybe that's a dent. However, it was really hitting their financial statements, and so now they've got to change, right? They've got to come in line with the consciousness of the people, which is people want better content. They want good things. They don't want to be fed something that isn't good for them. And so we're seeing this happen now. We haven't seen Disney make it about face yet, but who knows? That may be coming. There's a few other companies out there. So they're beginning to see that the people are not with them. Okay. And this is moving into what I would call what's coming into the new world. So how do we do business in the new world? I think first and foremost, after all of the trauma that we're experiencing, people are not going to simply choose what's cheapest or what's easiest on their wallet. The spirituality of people is raising, and they're now making choices, financial choices, with their wallet that is in line with that spirituality. And so you have decisions that will be made based on their moral compass, right? So what does that look like? Well, it means that, in the past where we've seen evil expand, grow, become this tremendously successful thing, you're going to see that go away because the people aren't going to support it. There's going to be no money for them in doing that. And so you'll see almost a reverse. Now this doesn't happen immediately. It's not like day one, suddenly it's all just different, but we're seeing the changes already underway and taking place. And so what that means is that those that are doing good, those that are supporting humanity, are going to begin to get the success. They're going to begin to have those things happen for them. And so it's going to be very different, I think, going forward. I'm excited for that. It gets us away from money and it gets us focused on each other. And I think people are going to really be thinking about, okay, what am I doing when I spend $1? Am I helping humanity? Am I helping the world go in a new and better direction? And I think that's first and foremost, that's where we're moving. I'm having conversations with people of all political perspectives and up and down the spectrum. But what's interesting is they're all agreeing we need to be more spiritual. We need to be more in tune with our intuitive selves and doing those things that we think will bless and help others. And so to me, that's a powerful thing. It's a mighty change that's coming about. And we talk about the financial changes because those are obvious and they hit everybody's bank accounts or wallets. And so it becomes something easy for us to discuss. But I think the spiritual change, the consciousness that's lifting, the light that's now emanating for people is literally a big part of what this reset is. It's about getting back to who we really are. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think that'll change how business is conducted. I don't think we're going to see every project running down the treadmill, searching for the biggest profit, right? They're going to learn that when they begin to serve the people, the profits take care of themselves, and everyone becomes blessed by that. Tonson, you may have some thoughts on that, but that's the things that I'm seeing happen right now.
One of the big problems with the corporate structure, as you know, is that it's designed to maximize profits for the shareholders. How's that going to change in the future? This seems like a new model, a new mechanism has to be there.
Well, I think so, but I think we're going to measure success differently, is the way that I see it happening. So I think it's not going to be all about the dollars, but honestly, if we're doing things that build and lift others, if we're bringing value to their lives, I really think you might see success go way beyond this old competitive model. It might even surprise people just how much abundance begins to flow when we begin to focus on the real priority, and that's each other. So we had some discussions a month ago about the quantum financial system. What is a quantum financial system? Well, it is the new banking system that we're going into. The old one, at least the current version of it, and you might find this interesting, I certainly did, they called the software system Babylon. Isn't that interesting? You just write out in the open for us, right? Oh, this is Babylon. So I thought that was fascinating. The new system does have an AI component to it. It's not an open-ended AI. It's given parameters of functioning for the bank system. But what that does is that the system becomes somewhat self-aware. So when it sees transactions that seem to be out of the ordinary for an individual, it can look at that. Some of them could be flagged if there's something that's not reading right. It does have the ability to look through multiple levels deep. You can go about, I think it's 20 steps. Okay. So if, let's say you buy something from your friend and you pay him $100, well, then he pays somebody else for some service and it goes on. They can literally measure that down almost 20 steps. What does that do? Well, it eliminates money laundering. You're not going to be able to do what the deep state's been doing. How much of the foreign aid packages from the United States, whether it's Ukraine or any of the others, were coming back to the politicians that voted to send the money? We don't know, right? But the system knows. And it's been running live since August of 2021. So we've had 9 months of the system running parallel to the old system, and it's tracking everything. Okay. So we're going to see some revelations come out. I predict over the next few weeks where some of this nefarious activity is going to be brought into the light, and it's going to be shown. And I think the biggest thing about that is it's going to bring power back to the people. It's interesting. If you look at the way we do money right now, everyone needs to go to a bank, get a bank account so they can be in the digital system. Okay. You can use a debit card. You can send money through Zelle, some other form, but you got to go to the bank to get their account for this. You need their access. But the new system is going to be different. It's going to be universal for everyone. Everyone gets access to basically a checking account. You're going to be on the system. You get to hold the money yourself. You get to control the money yourself. No one can say, oh, the bank's closed Saturday and Sunday, so we can't help you till Monday. you'll be able to go into the system and you'll be able to send money to whoever you need to send it to. So it's going to empower the people to, I think, be more creative and certainly be more free to distribute their funds as their heart is inclined to have them do. So the new system is going to be fantastic. It is going to help catch the nefarious activity. I think it has the ability to watch your habits. So it's going to know when something's a little out of the ordinary. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not designed to inhibit people. It's designed to help protect them. So, I'll give you an experience. Many years ago, I was working with a particular bank, and it was one of the big three. I won't say the name because maybe that's not fair. But I was having a conversation with a banker. Now, a large tranche of funds was being moved into one of my accounts from another place within the United States. And the banker was indicating to me, oh, these funds need to go through the clearinghouse, and that's going to take 48 hours, right? And then we can deposit them into your account. And I looked at him and I says, you and I know this is digital and it's instant. So who gets to play with it for 48 hours? And his face turns white because he knows he's been had, right? The banks have been playing with everybody's money. They use this clearinghouse component, but that's really just them trying to play with you. So those kind of things are going to go away. You're not going to have that anymore. Everything instantly clears. It's going to be like Zelle. Boop, you send it and it's there. Even Zelle's got a delay though. So this will be even better than that. It'll just get to where it needs to go. So I'm excited. I'm excited about what's coming on the quantum level. And I think this is way beyond banking, guys. Think about how the quantum future is going to look. The other cool thing that, and this has been suggested by some, I think Charlie Ward has even mentioned this, and a few others out there, we're going to have the ability in the future to vote via the quantum system. Well, that would be very interesting. Very interesting. And so that's going to be, that would be a secure method because every person that's verified, right, and has an account can only vote once. And the system can tabulate those votes instantaneously. You can't say, oh, we're shutting down the voting. Oh, we'll see what comes in by 3 a.m. That wouldn't happen. It's impossible to happen on a system like that. So that would be very interesting because I think we've had a lot of tainted elections in our country. And in fact, every country, there isn't a country on the planet that has had clean elections in many years. And I wish we could say that's the case, but unless they did basic paper and they cut it off this day of voting, there's been fraud. There's been fraud. And even the paper, we've had fraud. Remember the old days of the chads and hanging chads and all this stuff. So it's going to affect our lives in many positive ways. The other cool thing that's coming is this quantum technology is going to help us with our health. So med beds are coming. There's several different versions of med beds. Some are already operational and being used now. Some are a little entry level and some are more advanced. It will take time to bring that kind of technology to people because it has to be reproduced. It has to be manufactured. You've got to get enough of them out there. There's a lot of hospitals around the world. If you can imagine a bed in every room, we might start getting to where we can help people. So it's going to take some time. I know everybody's like wants to sign up and be the first on the list. Can I jump in the med bed? It will help us with our health. But the cool thing is the advanced ones are not going to work for you if you don't think it works. It literally interfaces with your own consciousness. So your belief system has a lot to do with your health. If you believe you can be healed, you can. Okay. And that's going to tie in with these new health systems that are coming for us. And I think we're going to get away from chemical compounds such as the drugs and everything. And we're going to move into more of an energy type of a healing, which I think is very exciting. Do you have any comments on that, Tansa, before I move on?
Fantastic. No, you're painting the picture of what's coming, and let's let you continue, and then we'll open it up to questions.
Okay, great.
And,
so what is what is ultimately the goal? What are the we call them white hats, but you could call them alliance, you call them the people that are seeking for good, that are seeking for freedom, they're seeking for independence. The cool thing about all of this is it does require us to step up. It actually puts each of us in a place of self-responsibility. We can't just say, oh, my life is garbage and I'm going to blame Bob for that, right? Because in this new paradigm, our lives are our creation. And so we have to be completely self-responsible in that. And so there's going to be opportunities, I think, for incredible amount of growth for us as we go for that. My conversations with some of the money people that are behind this reset, they are very spiritual people. Their whole goal was to bless and help humanity. 100 plus years ago, they put out a lot of gold, a lot of assets to help many countries build and develop their country. They didn't know the countries weren't going to pay them back. They didn't know this would be used for a debt slavery system that would literally enslave the world financially, but they know it now and they don't want that going forward. So there's going to be a lot of changes, I think, coming for us as we begin to realize the abundance that is here. It is tremendous. Our world is so rich and abundant, and all of us were meant to have that. We're meant to live incredibly abundant lives. And so I'm excited with the releases that are coming. I know everybody's like, oh, well, when's the GCR? When's the RV? When's the money going to get let loose? Right. It will happen when the environment is safe to do so. That is really the real answer. Could it have happened a year ago? It could have if we were ready, but we weren't. Okay. So when we are ready as a people, when we're ready to take responsibility for our lives, when we're ready to stop supporting the nonsense that's been enslaving us, that's when it will be there for us. And I do think it's close. You know, I said a month ago, I thought within the next couple of weeks it could happen. That was a possibility. Obviously, it's taken a little bit longer. And now we're seeing the pushback, right? These guys, the evil people that have been controlling the banking, that have been controlling all the finances, they are controlling the world. This is a fight for control of the world. On one hand, you got the people that want freedom. They want prosperity. They want the ability to build their lives the way they desire. And on the other hand, you want these people that want to not only maintain control, they want more of it. They're drunk on the power. So it's really, the war is now very visual and it's in front of all of us. And so as we see this, there's going to be, unfortunately, in war, some casualties. These shootings they just tear my heart out. I mean, it's hard to imagine someone that could literally gun down innocent children. And I don't think anybody on this call could possibly do that. It's the farthest thing from our minds. But as we get to the end of this battle, we can't underestimate the enemy. They can and will do anything because they're in desperation. They see the end coming for them. And so we need to just be vigilant. We need to keep our families safe. We need to make sure we got food, water. We've got some stuff we can deal with, a little emergency if it comes our way. And I think that that's the most important thing to do right now as we get through the next few weeks. I kind of have a feeling, and I've been talking about this with some colleagues of mine for the last week, that we're headed into a heightened sense of, it's going to look like chaos. That's the best way I could describe it. There's going to be disinformation, false information, everything flying everywhere. And this is part of the desperation, okay, of the deep state. So there's going to be information that's going to look, you might even see truthers begin to like take jabs at each other and weird stuff like this, right? People that you wouldn't think normally would do that. I think we're going to see a little bit of crazy. And I don't think there's a way to the other side of this without us passing through that. unfortunately. So I think we just need to stay calm through it all. Just say, okay, this is just part of the process. It's kind of like a woman giving birth. If anybody's been there, and I was at the birth of each of my kids, there's a point of transition. And that's when, the pain is intense. Everything is intense, and you just want it over. We're all going to experience this where we just want it over. Some of us are there already, right? But I think it's going to be a little more intense before we reach the other side. And then we can build heaven on earth, which is going to be awesome. I love this next one. What's been delaying all this? I kind of talked about it a little bit. We're moving at the pace of the light and vibration of consciousness. So the higher our vibration, the more light we exhibit, the faster the process goes. And but then there's times when events happen, where there's scare moments. There's things like we saw in Texas, right? Where people get fearful and they might lower their energy a little bit. That's not our time to do that. We need to keep our energy up. And the interesting thing is this enemy, they can't exist in a high vibrational state. They're not congruent with it. So they do everything they can to try to bring us back. And so the greatest thing that we can do, we can actually all be warriors, is to share more light, share more consciousness, share more truth. And the truth will always prevail. Now, sometimes it's taking time. We're watching this play out, but truth does prevail. And we will see that. Gosh, look at Durham. How many years was that process going on? The Russia thing. And now Durham's just like laying it all out in the court. And now we begin to see the truth, but it took us a while to get there. This is crazy, guys. Look, because what you're going to find when we get to the end of this is that a lot of things that you think are not. And some people that you think are gone are not. And some that you think are still here are gone. Okay. There's going to be some revelations as we get to the credits of this movie. And I think that might be a little shocking for some folks to find out, but that's just part of this process. When you're in a war, which is what this has been, the last thing you can do that would be to your detriment is to telegraph to your enemy exactly what you're going to do. And nobody wants to do that because it's an unsafe position to be. Well, then they can counter everything you try, right? So it's been frustrating because you have a lot of people saying, well, why don't they just tell us what's going on? Well, they can't. Okay. Because if they do, then the bad guys know what's going on, right? So we got this reverse thing. So we have to have some patience with the process, and we need to keep ourselves aloof. I would tell everybody, be careful who you put up on a pedestal as your hero, your savior, whatever. Be very careful. Because there could be some disappointments that are coming. And I think really what we need to do is to build each other up and to lift each other, to not to aggrandizement. We've seen Hollywood, we've seen sports events where they push these people up. Oh, this is a great basketball player, right? We should idolize this person. No, we shouldn't idolize anybody. We should meet each other with love and understanding, but we don't idolize those people. It's just and maybe I don't want to get in the weeds here on that, Taunton, but that's just my thoughts on it. I had a couple of people ask me about Starlink. What's going on with Starlink? What is it? Is that the quantum system? Short answer is, yeah, it is the part of the new system. It's really fascinating. A gentleman was asking me today, he says, is Starlink going to like take over the internet? Will the internet all be on Starlink? I was like, no, it's a combination. We're still going to use fiber optics. We're still going to have some stuff, but we're going to connect things together where the system becomes smart, becomes wise, and it becomes very fast. Could you imagine? And probably we don't think about this. We hook up to our DSL or cable modem, whatever, and we're getting 50 megabits, and we think, wow, that's pretty good. It used to be I could only get 25. That's great. Well, what if that could be a gigabit connection? But because you're pinging through servers all over the world that are surveilling everything you do, it's really only 25 on your end, right? So isn't it going to be amazing when you pull the brakes off of information and it begins to flow freely and unrestricted? And I think we're going to see everything speed up. It needs to speed up, though. We're moving into a new era, and we need our technology to be at the pace of humanity. And so I think we're going to see a lot of changes with that. Somebody asked me today, they said, I've seen T-Mobile do woke stuff. I've seen AT&T do woke stuff. I've seen Verizon do woke stuff. I don't understand all that. That's nonsense. And how do we stop this? I said, well, I don't know. That's a good question. But what happens if those satellites in the sky, some of those we call Starlink, what happens if they issue a phone that works with all of those and you don't need cell towers? Do the woke companies become irrelevant? Well, things could change in a hurry is what I'm saying. I'm not saying they're going to go away, but there's going to be changes. And any companies that are not with the people, that are not supporting humanity, are going to find themselves in a financial struggle with the new system. So it's incredible where we are. I have people ask me every day, timing. When's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? And as I said before, this is about when we're ready. And, somebody was asking me the other day, they said, Wano Savan said, we need to have a near-death experience and we're going to have a Red Sea moment. Honestly, this is very similar to that. If you look at the biblical story of the children of Israel coming out of Egypt and getting their freedom from slavery, from Pharaoh, and yet he doesn't want them to go, right? He brings his whole army to try to stop them at the banks of the Red Sea. And they have their miracle. God provides their miracle where he parts the sea and they get through. We've all been enslaved. We may not understand it. We've lived with it so long since our birth, we don't even realize what's going on, right? So for us too, we're having to learn how to be sovereign, how to be free, how to be self-responsible for ourselves. And this is going to be a process. We're all going to be at different stages of it. I would just encourage everybody, as we do come out of the financial slavery that we've been under, that we should be a little bit kind, because there's going to be some people coming out of this and they're going to be struggling. They're going to be trying to figure out how to have their own financial feet under them, and what do they do? And I think we need to let go of judgment and just know that we're all in this together. And as we move together, we achieve more. So that's just my thoughts on that. Couple other things about the United States. Everybody's been wondering, well, what's going on in Washington, D.C.? Why have we had fences around the White House, fences around the Capitol, all this stuff going on? You have some people going around with video and they're videoing things. And I don't know if any of you have spent much time in D.C., but that place used to be bustling. There were people everywhere. They were jammed on the metro subway system. It was a nonstop city. It didn't even sleep. Okay. there's hardly anything going on there. Why? Why is it so quiet? What's really happening?
Fences around the Federal Reserve building there too.
Yeah. Yeah. There's like hardly anything going on there. Right. You're like, what's going on here? So everyone's beginning to see this, and they're beginning to share video, right? Take a video of it, put it on social media, share it with others so everyone can understand something's not normal in DC. As we get into resetting our country, and we're going to have a renewal of our republic, there's going to be some decisions made about what that looks like. I can tell you that it's going to be small. Government is bloated beyond all reason, and it's not helpful for us. It just becomes a bureaucracy that tries to just everything it goes for is to support itself. It becomes so big, it's like you need to tax the people to maintain this bureaucracy. But is it really helping your life, right? So there's going to be a lot of questions asked about that. The other thing is there's been some evil and nefarious things that have happened in that city. It was based on very specific, the way they laid out the buildings, the streets were based on, some of it was Masonic, some of it was other than that, but this has its ties back into Luciferianism, Satanism. There were crazy things going on there, folks. Okay. When that becomes revealed, you're going to have hard questions to answer. And that is, do we want to continue to occupy this satanic culture that was built there? Personally, I think there's a very strong indication that we will build a new capital and that it may become a museum, much like the concentration camps of Germany, where people go and they visit and they see what this place was, and so that they never repeat this again. We may have a museum out of DC. That's my thoughts on it. We'll see what occurs, but I'm not alone in that. And I've had a lot of people talking to me about it. And I think that we need to keep our minds open as to what that's going to look like. But if you can imagine a government only 10% of the size it is now, you'll probably be more in line with where we're headed. So, somebody was asking me the other day about, is there clones? Are they cloning people, and are they creating doubles? The deep state had some cloning facilities in the underground tunnels and the dumps. Okay. They found these. They were doing some stuff down there that was pretty awful. There was questions when the Alliance began their initial advance against the deep state. There was questions about, well, maybe we take out some of these high profile people and we just put a clone in their place so that we can work our way down through the organization and we can kind of get everybody rounded up that we need to round up. Decisions were made. Trump was in on that decision, as well as others, that they were not going to use that technology. So instead, they've chosen to use masks. And if any of you guys have seen some of the amazing things out of Hollywood, I mean, just look at the Lord of the Rings series, everything else. They make some amazing masks and they look real, don't they? So it's pretty incredible. They have the ability to use these silicone things and make anybody look like someone else. And there's a lot of actors in this movie. I can't wait to see the credits myself. I'm kind of curious who's all involved. I think there's going to be some amazing talent that we're going to see there. But a choice was made not to use the technology the dark side's using, because we're not trying to promote darkness. We're trying to promote something better. And so the truth is, there are actors. Some might call them doubles. Some people just kind of look a lot alike. I mean, if you went around the whole world, you might find a half a dozen people that could almost be your doppelganger, you know? So there's some, they've found some people that look close, and they've done that for safety. If you think that high profile people like Trump, Biden, and some of these others don't have a backup, a double, you would be missing some vital information. So they do exist. They're out there. Trump's had, I know he has at least 2 doubles. Some of them have given speeches at rallies, and maybe you didn't know it. Okay. I know of a couple of rallies where that was done. And so, yeah, he's using that too. Are they trying to remove him? Of course they are. This is warfare. He's dodging bullets. Okay. This is a big deal. So we've got to just pray for those that are on the front lines. We need to pray for these families in Texas, in Buffalo, New York, these people that have had their lives shattered as really, they're just innocents in this, right? But you have individuals that want to maintain power that literally have no care for human life. They don't care how many die. They don't care who they have to step over. They only want what they want. And so we're dealing with this, and it's now becoming very, I think, visual to all of us. In the past, the deep state liked to stay in the shadows. They do everything in the dark. Don't let anybody see what they're really about. They have no choice now but to come out and fight in the daylight. Okay. And because they're at the end. And so we're going to see a little bit more. It might start to become a little more obvious who's on which side, who's choosing good, who's choosing evil, and who are they supporting. And so I think we need to keep ourselves open to that. We need to pray for all of us. I had somebody ask me today, like, why do you say pray for people? I'm not religious. Why do I have to pray? And I said, well, then meditate. Do something. But when you are in the act of that, it takes you to a place that is to your betterment always. I don't care what religion it is. Okay. But the act of prayer leads our consciousness to a better place where we can think, I think, about each other and about ourselves in less judgment and in more hope and light. And so I think that's what we're really shooting for. It was interesting. I saw, I need to find this because I'll have to share it with you, Tansa, but there was actually a study that they did with medical patients, and they studied those that were praying people and those that were not. And the results were so stark. They've had to declare it actually a scientific thing. It's real. It actually affects the health and well-being of the individual. It was really powerful.
Well, Dr. Larry,
so cool stuff,
Dr. Larry Dossey, medical doctor, he's one who's published a lot of material like you're talking about.
Yeah, and isn't that interesting? You shared a book with me, which I'm reading right now, about the oneness, and it's really cool when we begin to tap into really our divine potential. It's nothing but goodness that comes out of that, and I think as we come out of this slavery that we've been under, we're going to begin to realize we are much more creative, much more powerful than we knew we were, but we were being kept down. They wanted to suppress that. It's interesting. Human beings are very, we have creative power within us. It's part of who we are. And what's fascinating is some of the other entities out there want to harness that creative part for their own purposes. So if they can keep you in fear, in a darkness and afraid, your creative power will create a fearful, dark, afraid situation. It literally manifests itself. And so they've been using us to create their hell on earth. And now as we become aware of our own potential, now we can create the heaven on earth. So I'm super excited about that. So I don't want to sit here and ramble. I'd like to take some questions from our audience because I'm sure that there's a few out there. And I want to see what you guys are thinking about and what's on your minds.
Okay, absolutely. All right. So questions, everyone. Those who have computer or smartphone access, you can raise the hand, click on the raise hand icon, and or type into chat. And those who are calling in by phone, press *9. And first we have Wade. You've raised your hand. And let me unmute you. And you're on the air if you would like to be, Wade. We'll need to unmute you. You can unmute.
Yep, not hearing him yet. So,
okay. Wade, one more time, if you can unmute. I'm clicking on the ask to unmute. It's up to you. I can't unmute you without your permission. All right. Well, while we are working on that, let me go to iPhone 125. I'm going to ask you to unmute. You've got your hand raised. You apparently don't have your individual name. Okay, there we go. iPhone 125.
Yeah, so I would say about meditating, according to JFK Jr., who I've been listening to for some time, is very, very important to stay in your heart when you do that, not in your head.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the heart is the channel to our intuitive side. And that's what some of us are maybe new to that and we're just developing it. But I love that. Thank you for the comment. Did you have a question for us?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you.
There could be some on the chat. I'll let you monitor that, Thompson, because some of them may just ask a question via the chat. So
I sure will. I just want to comment that where the world is going is to a population that no longer wants to be predatory. You know, that's where we're headed. There's a world where the consciousness has risen enough, it's moved out of the reptilian brain into the social brain and then to the prefrontal cortex where consciousness is seated and sees oneness. And then everyone goes, oh my God, whatever I've done into anyone else, I've done into myself. Has always been the case, you know, has always been the case. But it's an awakening to that pre-existing reality that's going to spread to the entire populations. Well, if not sooner, then at least later. That's where we're headed.
right.
And then there won't be all these mechanisms of, you know, defense and war and, you know, because people just won't be trying to extract power and energy and control out of other people anymore. They'll just see how silly that is and self-sabotaging.
And you see that occurring even right now. You know, earlier this week, you had a question from a reporter to Joe Biden. Well, if China goes into Taiwan, what do we do? Are we going to war with China? You know, oh yeah, that's what we've committed to do. Like the people haven't committed that. The people don't want war. We've had 20 years of it in the Middle East. People don't want it anymore.
Well, how do we
They're done.
remove the profit incentive from the weapons manufacturers? Because the weapons manufacturers make trillions. And that's one of the biggest problems is that it's so profitable. War is so profitable. So they try to stir war up wherever they can. How do we make it no longer profitable for them?
Well, it's amazing to me is they have some incredible technology. Could you imagine if they began to build things for the people instead of to destroy people, begin to use that creative energy for something else? I think it'll get there, but there could be some transition that helps us in that process.
We're going to get there. All right. Yeah. In chat. So Christy says, how will the private placement platform work with the QFS?
Very good question. I'm told in time, those programs will go away. However, that time is not now. And that is because the need to rebuild our planet and to help the people is so great that that's going to be open for some time. I think what it will look like in terms of those programs is you may have to move money to an account where the program can run, right? And you would do that with your QFS system. You would say, okay, I'm moving from my account over to this account for that program so that the projects can be funded. I think it'll be quite simple, and I don't think it will be as complicated as people might want to make it out to be.
All right. JB, you are on. I'm going to ask you to unmute. You have raised your hand. If you can unmute and speak to us.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, Will.
Hi there.
Hi. Listen, I have a very interesting question, or maybe you might look at it differently, but there's a lot of confusion around the emergency broadcasting system and when or even if it's going to take place and what the sequences of events are that surround that appearance. For instance, we were told on one instance that the military was going to try to do the quiet approach and take over the media or put pressure on the media to deliver the correct messages on the election fraud and the vax, the clot shot. And so to actually be honest about it, and they weren't going to put high pressure. And if they didn't do what they were asked to do, they were going to take over the media. When do you see or envision that as a starting sequence for all this, and how the EBS falls into place, or whether we're even going to have an EBS, which follows this 10 days of disclosure? That is all very confusing. It changes stories. We don't know the truth. Do you know, Will?
I do know a little bit. I do know a little bit. So they wanted to have as smooth a transition as possible. If you just, let's say you did a total blackout, you shut down all the media sources, the internet, and you had a broadcast and you're watching a general give you information or whatever, and that's on every TV channel, right? That is abrupt awakening. That is like throwing a glass of water in somebody's face saying, wake up. The problem is with that is some people are not ready for such an abrupt awakening, and they may react in a way that is not positive. So the good guys have decided that we would prefer a more gentle awakening, get truth out there, let the people begin to see the truth. However, I'll tell you my thoughts on it from the conversations I've had. I think we will have a disclosure. I don't think we get around that, because the lies have been so pervasive that I think there has to be an establishment of truth. Okay. Now that brings the next question. Well, when's this going to happen? Because we've been waiting for this for a year, right? Most people. It will happen when the conditions are right. And that has somewhat to do with the takedown that they're doing of the evil, because if they don't have it under control to a certain degree, and then they try to launch this, there's going to be some incredible backlash that's going to come up from that. So you're still seeing assets being deployed by the deep state. Okay. Even when we think, okay, they got nothing left that they can throw at us, well, then they throw something else, right? So that's what's taking time, is we're having to make sure that their weaponry literally is exhausted so that we can have a transition. There will be a disclosure. I think they would prefer that it not be as shock and awe kind of situation where people that don't know what's going on are just, up and having a heart attack and falling over. So I think that with that being said, this isn't going to drag on forever. Okay. And I don't want to give anybody the impression that this goes on for, gosh, this is going to be past the midterms or whatever else. This is moving at a pace right now that is likely to come to a conclusion very soon. And there could be some events that come around that indicate that we're okay. God's got this, and he's got us in his hands, and we're going to land on the other side. I think there's a lot that could occur now through the next 2 weeks. And I think that could be part of that real heated, chaotic moment. Okay. But I think as we get past that, they want to get there. The good guys, I think they would love nothing more than to have a celebration on the 4th of July and say, the restored republic, everything's great. Can it all be done by then? I think that's up for debate. I think we'll have to wait and see. But I don't see any way, my personal opinion, I don't see any way we don't have a disclosure. Now, I don't know if that's full EBS, but there certainly has to be a disclosure.
That's a fantastic answer, Will. Perfect, beautiful, comprehensive, and thorough, and sounds right. All right, Gina, your hand is up, and I ask you to unmute. Gina? Gina, are you there? I can see you're unmuted, but don't hear you. All right.
Yeah, it could be mute on the other end.
Going once. You can still speak later if we can't get you now.
I see a couple of questions popping up on the chat. We'll have to maybe check some of those and see if
Well,
we can
there's,
maybe address a
what
few
will
of
the
those.
new political reality be like, and what will the reality of gun laws become?
I think the political landscape looks very different as all of this is revealed. I think it inherently has to. I think you're going to have some parties that might go away altogether. They might just crumble under their own malfeasance. I think that the people, though, are going to not want to have parties. This has been used as a means of contention. Let's get one side fighting against the other side. You're either red, you're blue. They created this binary kind of a situation where, oh my goodness, if you voted Democrat, you can't vote for anybody on the red side. But the whole thing's nonsense, guys. There's a lot of nonsense that's been happening in our world, and it's been used as a means of control. So I think politically, I think we're going to see things look very different. And I think it's going to be about the best ideas win, ultimately.
Way back in the 1800s, Mark Twain said, "I don't tell jokes. I just watch what goes on in Congress and report the facts."
So true. Ronald Reagan one time was talking about he attended an event that was for Frank Sinatra, and he kind of put some jokes in there. He says, Frank Sinatra was the president. He might, for his State of the Union, bring in a great comic tell jokes and get everybody lit up. But then he'd realize the real comics were in the house. And isn't that true? I mean, haven't we seen that? You know, it's been crazy.
Well, to support what you were just saying, some are saying that we will no longer be voting for people in office, that the international voting system on the blockchain and the Starlink and all that will allow us to vote directly for issues and bypass the government completely, that people worldwide will directly vote for whatever they want to see happen. And the system will be unhackable, undistortable, unfraudable.
Literally the voice of the people. Yeah.
Literally the voice of the people.
I think that's the likely scenario. You're
Will make
right.
heads
Yeah.
of state sort of obsolete, really irrelevant.
We don't need the big bloated leadership. I don't, you know, it's interesting. Oh, this guy is our leader and he's going to represent us. Well, does he? Look what we've seen. We haven't seen representative government. We've seen people that just aspire to these positions of leadership so that they can, you know, use it for their own advantage. And so I don't think people are going to be interested in that going forward.
All right, David, you have your hand up. Would you like to be unmuted and say something to us?
Yes. Hello, Tansen. Hello, Will.
Hi.
Thank you very much.
Hi, David.
Hello. I have a question about the Nasara Jasara and the distribution of wealth. Personally, if I received $2,000 a month, I probably wouldn't continue working where I'm working right now. And so I'm just curious about how this distribution of wealth will play out, and if there's a plan in place. I can't imagine too much money going out into the world at one time without some requirement for people to continue working. You know, just wondering if you had there's a plan in place.
You're on to something, but you're also going to find as we go forward that technology is going to be able to do a lot of the menial tasks for us. So you're correct. I mean, we're seeing that right now. You know, I had conversations with 5 different business people earlier this week who all told me we can't find workers because they can just get on unemployment endlessly and they don't want to work. Right. This is coming to me for business owners. So they're like, it's a rare thing to find somebody that'll work. Well, I think what's going to happen though, as we move into the new paradigm, and there's a transition to this. So don't expect this to be like, you know, just tomorrow this happens. It will take time to get there, but we're going to begin to see menial tasks, repetitive tasks, factory type work, probably start moving to machinery. Okay. And I think you're going to see it if as people have wealth, you're right. Maybe they quit their job because they didn't like it. Well, is that a bad thing? I don't know. I think honestly, it's going to allow people the freedom to begin to choose what they do with their time. And when you find that thing that you're impassioned about, that really drives you, that just is, you just get excited every day to do, then you don't work a day in your life. It's fun, it's joyful, and you're in service to others. And so I think it's going to help people move away from, I have to work this job just so my family is, you know, fed, to a situation of what can I do? What can I do to help others? How can I be of an influence? How can I bless somebody? And I think as we begin to move into that new paradigm, that new thought process, that's when I think the real magic in our world will happen, where we begin to really see things take off. You know, I know a guy that is, he's a nerd. Okay. He's just computer geek out. He just geeks out on computer stuff, right? He can sit down and he can code stuff. And he's like, I don't have that ability. I don't even have a desire for that ability, but I can go to people like him who likes to do that. Right. And so I think when people begin to step into the things that they love and the things that they do, that's when I think we begin to see real value in what they're sharing with us, because they're coming at it from their, coming to us from their heart saying, let me help you with this.
That's my vision too, Will. From what I've seen of what's coming, we have a world where people make their work their play. They do what they love. And when there is grace, there's compassion, there's benevolence, there's abundance, there's peace, there's harmony in the world. Everyone's healthy, happy, has enough. There's no tyranny anymore. There's going to be an overflowing, an expansion, a explosion of creativity and of willingness to help, just as you were saying.
You know, I'll give you one little example that I think is really fascinating. One of the projects that we are supporting, and I won't give names because I can't right now. But here's the project. They have a technology. I guess that's how I could describe it, to restore the soil to its natural state. Our soils have been depleted from microorganisms, microbes, various things that allows the soil to work together. So here's how this works. So when a plant is planted and it begins to develop its root system, you got to get nutrients to the plant. Well, those are all carried by microbes. And when the microbes are defeated, you have a challenge there. And so then what do? They pour on chemical fertilizers. And then they do other things. They spray glyphosates and other things. We've had years and years of this chemical treatment on our soils. It's done incredible things. Not for the good. It's actually moved our soil from an aerobic, an oxygen-rich environment to an anaerobic state where only anaerobic bacteria. And you know what? When anaerobic bacteria build, they off-gas, right? Then you end up with hard clay, solid surface. So what's interesting is as we begin to get back to the natural state of things, there's a lot of test results of this, and we're going to reveal some of those. But yields went up substantially, far beyond what any of the Monsantos can do. And not only that, water consumption went down. Fertilizer consumption went down. The soil, when the soil gets restored, it becomes a biology that feeds every living thing. And this affects even us, because what do? We consume the plants. And when you have good microbes that might be on that tomato, because that tomato plant, those microbes are getting into your gut, and then it's restoring your gut. And there's other things that's going to come out of it. And so it's interesting how, with this one project, how many lives are affected and touched by that. I've had people say, oh, well, population is so big. I mean, how would we feed them all? I was like, we have the ability to crank up production at levels that it's going to be so abundant. It's like, there's no end to the food. Okay. And God's provided all this on our beautiful planet. And we're going to get back to what he provided for us, and we're going to enjoy it. And it's going to be a beautiful thing. So I say that because as we get into the new paradigm, it's not about lack. It's not about, well, is there going to be enough, or is there going to be enough workers? Are we going to have enough workers to do everything? Look how robots are taking over factory work. There's a bunch of them in Tesla's factory, a lot of robots in there. So the technology can move at a pace that our consciousness moves and can support us and help us. When we get into troubles, when technology goes beyond our consciousness, and that's what we don't want. We want it, but we want it to keep pace for sure.
Well, we have a long list of people sending questions into chat, and we have 4 people with their hands raised. So there's a lot.
Okay, well, we're going to have to do some rapid fire. How about
what you just shared is very important. I just wanted to thank you for that, because what you just said needs to be heard by everyone on this planet. So important. And matter of fact, if we had lots of extra time, it's maybe someday we will. I would say, please talk about your humanitarian project, because that
Oh, we have some amazing things, and
that is
it'll
where
help
your passion.
everybody. It really
And,
will.
and it's a whole education. Each one of those projects has so much knowledge, so much education that you just, wow, you learn what heaven on earth we can create. Yeah.
Absolutely. All
Okay,
right,
this one,
let's try to shoot through these as quickly as we
let's
can.
shoot through them. All right, this one is is JFK Jr. still alive? Gina was asking this.
Personally, I think he is,
Okay.
but I can't show you the evidence of that. But I've heard enough testimony from some people that were at the airport the day that his plane took off, and I don't think there were live people on that plane.
So his death was faked.
Yeah. Now, I don't think it's safe for him to come out right now, to be honest.
Right.
If I was him, I wouldn't. But there might be a time when that is safe. So
Some were even speculating he would run as vice president or even president. Yeah. And
I think that'll be up to him. And I think we have to be careful that we don't pressure people to, because they once had a very visual, fame, in front of everybody, that they need to go back to that. They might prefer their solidarity, their quiet time. So I think we let them choose what they want to do.
all right, Daniel's asking, any new updates or reveals about Bitcoin or future part of crypto world in this world?
A couple of things when it comes to cryptos. I believe there's a place for the cryptos in the new system, provided that they are backed by real assets. When you move to a system where all the currencies are suddenly going to be backed by real things, gold, silver, oil in the ground, whatever it is, anything that's directly fiat is going to struggle to survive. Okay. So, but if you have cryptos that are backed by something good, I think there's a place for that. I think they may have to be registered on the system to exist. And that could be a simple process. Yes, that registration process might be part of just validating, yes, it's actually backed by something, whatever. So I think there could be a home for that. Bitcoin currently right now is fiat. Okay. But doesn't mean that change couldn't occur. Okay. So I can't address all the cryptos. I do think cryptos are not, I don't think they're going away. I mean, they've shown the ability to transact person to person, which is what the QFS system is about, person to person, no more interference from banks or other things. So I think there's a place for it.
All right, and he has one other question. He says, pardon the simplicity of this question, but what is Israel? Is it with the bad guys?
Israel, just like most other countries, were infiltrated to the core.
Mm-hmm.
So you have nefarious actors in many of these government positions. I do think that all gets cleaned up. I'm told it's going to be one of the last countries to get cleaned up. So we'll see how that goes. But I think I think you're going to see the supportive agencies like CIA, Mossad, MI6, these kind of things. I think you're going to see just go away. There won't be a need for that going forward. And I think that helps a lot, because these secretive agencies have been the cover allowing for the bad actors to do what they want with these governments. And so I think that goes away. Israel is always going to have a place. We know that it's in all the revelations. So I don't see it going away, but I do see it being cleaned up.
All right, next, Rena says, can you tell us what to expect at redemption? Some say redemption centers, others say go to the bank.
Both are going to be available. Here, the Redemption Center is really focused around those that have an understanding of what the reset is, and more importantly, they have a place for those funds. In other words, they're coming with projects and things they want to do. The banks will be a place of exchange, but it may not be the same rates that might be available in some of these exchange centers or into some programs where it's already been registered and there's a known quantity. Here's the challenge with it, guys. And a lot of people don't understand why it has to be this way. There's a lot of currency out there, and not all of it is going to be revalued. Okay. It's not going to be just, if you find some somewhere, it's going to have this great high value. They want enough of it revalued to inject funds to the people, because it's the people that do projects. It's people that help each other, right? So this was a means of helping the people. The reason they liked various groups, and I don't care if some say, oh, well, there's the Admiral group or the Wells Fargo group, it doesn't matter the name. If you have a group and you have assets that are registered with that group, it allows them to look at that and go, okay, here's a known quantity of currency. We can wrap our heads around a known quantity, and we can authorize that one for a certain value. Okay. But if you just opened it up to everything, whatever comes in the door, there can be some challenges with that. So the banks, however, are going to be places where you can just walk in. Maybe you got a couple of bills of dong, and maybe it's going to have an additional value. You can go to the bank and you can get a rate, and it's probably going to be better than you paid. Okay. But they can't do all of it because they need to put their arms around known quantities, because they need to know what's being injected and pushed into the hands of the people. Because the last thing they want is the bad guys being funded again, right? So there's a process to this. And so you're going to see the banks will probably, I'm expecting, walk into a bank, get done. It'll be nice. It'll be good. Will it be the same as those that have registered with a group to do projects? Probably not. That's just my opinion.
That makes a whole lot of sense. Thank you. Marival from Canada said, are you aware of Queen Romana of Canada? From all immediate appearances, this looks like a wonderful development. Queen Romana, or QR as she also refers to herself, claims to be Arcturian, incarnated for the specific purpose of bringing peace and prosperity to the whole globe. QR is speaking of touring the United States as the beginning of a world tour for this purpose.
Yes, I'm aware of the individual. I've received no information that can validate the individual has a position of authority over anyone else. So at this point, the people that I'm talking to are just saying, she's seeking to do good. She's just an individual that's saying, I'll take a position and do something good, but they're not really recognizing her as a leader. So that's what I know about it. That could change, I suppose, but that's what I know so far.
Yeah, so especially since we're getting away from hierarchies, right?
Right.
Heads over others and everything. Next question from Doug. Do you feel Stellar XLM will have a place in the new economy?
Again, I think all of the cryptos that are asset backed and are seeking to provide the people with an exchange of value, I think there's a place for them all. I think they'll all have an opportunity. I honestly, I don't think they need to highlight any specific one. Those that are not choosing to back themselves with assets are going to just be abandoned. The people will just prefer something with an asset. So I don't think they have to do anything or say anything. I think they're going to just fall by the wayside if they're pure fiat. However, I've heard some good things about that one. I don't have any myself, so I can't really comment on it. so, but we'll see. You know, some of them are backed by things, and I think those have a place.
All right, let's go back to the raised hands. Wade, I'm going to try you one more time. We tried you once before and you didn't come on, but I'm asking you to unmute if you'd like to speak.
Greetings. Hi, Tungsten.
There you are. Okay.
Sorry, I pushed the buttons inadvertently previously, but I'm glad to be able to speak with you now.
Glad you're with us.
Thank you. I have a question with regard to the new currency and digital. And is that, do you have any worries about that being a method of controlling how people spend their money? As far as limiting their choices?
There's going to be a transition. I think eventually we all just move to digital just for convenience. Not that there's any worry about it. The system is designed to keep everything clean. And it's inherently got controls in there for that. So I'm not worried about things going digital, but I think it's about a learning process for us. I think the people want to have physical cash so they feel like they've got something to exchange with somebody that's not going to be monitored or whatever. There's going to be people that feel that way. So I think we're going to have a period where we'll have physical cash. We'll have the ability to do that. But I think ultimately people are going to just gravitate to something that's a little more convenient. You know, as we get into more advancements technologically, I really believe we'll see a day when there's not a need for money, because the technology provides anything that we need, and there's just not going to be a need to pass something back and forth. We'll give to each other naturally. I think it'll be an exchange of value, exchange of energy, but I don't know if it'll necessarily be needed as a monetary.
Well, the concern I had was related to the latest, one of the gals that was slated to go into the Federal Reserve, and her idea was that you could automatically place money, but at the same time, you'd automatically be able to decrease its value by 10%, you know, negative interest rate kind of thing, or that you could restrict sales like at gun stores and those kinds of things.
Right. And I think there's valid concerns of people about those issues. That's why I think it's going to take some time, because we're coming off of a complete financial slavery. You have to understand there's going to be natural apprehension by everybody. Wait, is this new system going to just be a new version of enslavement? And so it'll take time for people to begin to trust that it isn't that it's really just a convenience for us. And so I think as we get to that place, then it becomes a little bit easier, and we're going to probably just choose whatever's convenient for us.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Wade. Okay, Jesse, you have your hand up. You can be unmuted if you would like and speak to us, Jesse.
Yes. Hi. How you guys doing today?
Good.
Hi there.
I think we touched. We had the questions from the other people that answered some of the questions that I had, but you also touched base on the soil decontamination, and I've been kind of involved in a project, and I do believe that we're on the same page and talking about the same thing with that. Is that something that's going to reverse the GMOs too, and you know, the seeds that are?
It will. The reason that GMOs were created was to create a plant that was resistant to Roundup. Okay, that's how it got started. Correct. Because they just wanted to have something that they could use their glyphosates, right? And the plant could survive this onslaught. Well, as we get back to using natural microbes, aerobic microbes particularly is what I'm getting at, they're going to restore that soil, and you're going to have heritage seed that is going to far outperform anything the GMOs have. And I think they're going to just literally just fade away. When farmers find out they can use heritage seed and they can harvest it, clean it, and reuse it the next year, do you think they're going back to Monsanto? No way.
Right.
Yeah, they're just going to abandon that.
Okay. Okay. That's pretty much about it. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome.
Thank you, Jesse. And thank you, Will. That's awesome. Awesome answer. And on that same topic, Valerie's asking, we have been hearing for some time that there will be a shortage of food and water. Can you share anything about that situation? And that's
Yes, I
think
actually
it's-
can to some
there.
extent. There's a scary event going on, guys.
Yep.
Okay. There's been numerous food facilities that have been attacked, as best I'll describe it. And some of them are down, they're closed, they're being, redone. The baby formula thing is actually one of those. Not everything is the bad guys trying to cut off our food. Some of this is we're cleaning up our food supply. Okay. So it becomes a cover where the good guys can go in and they can stop this stuff, because there's been a lot of weird stuff injected in our food supply that has come off of their waste. So when they get done with their rituals and everything else, how do they decompose? What do they do with this stuff? Right. So they've been finding ways to throw it back in the food supplies. And I know that sounds gross, but that's been happening. So there's a lot of cleanup going on right now. Now, in terms of, are we going to run out of food? No. There is probably easily 5 to 7 years to feed the whole plant that's already stockpiled, and the Alliance has made sure of that before going into this. So I'm not concerned at all about whether we're going to be able to weather this. It's there. They have it.
All right.
Okay.
There's just one little side note to that. There could be, bare places on some shelves for certain products that you're used to, but that doesn't mean that there's going to be like no food available.
Well, that could be a good thing, because there's a lot of toxic foods on the grocery shelves.
There really is. Yeah. I'll share one little story with you. There's regarding some of the microbes and stuff we're doing. Down in Florida, they've been having this problem with orange groves. Now, orange groves have been a mainstay of Florida for decades, but today Florida is producing half of the oranges it used to do 30 years ago. Okay. That's pretty significant. Why are they doing this? Because they have something called greening disease that's affecting their trees, and they're not able to produce it the way that they used to produce. But what we found is that we could miss these trees with microbes. The microbes eat the eggs of the insects that are creating the greening disease, and suddenly the trees are restored in a very short order. No chemicals. This is just God's biology. And what's interesting is, if you were to go down, and I've seen pictures of this, where farmers have these barns with, pallets and pallets stocked with devices with skull and crossbones all over them. See, we got to get this. We're going to get this out of our food supply, and it's just going to be beautiful, people. I'm so excited about what's coming, because it's going to blow your minds. And the amazing thing is it's been here for us all along. It was overtaken. See, when everyone went after the money, they said, well, we need a product that's patentable, because if it's patentable, we can demand we be paid for it. Well, how do you develop that? The only thing that they can patent is anaerobic products. So it's literally reducing the oxygen in the soil. And we've been doing that for decades now. And you got Bayer, you got Monsanto, you got a lot of big companies going on in there, Cargill, there's many. They're all involved in that. But as we move to the new system, all that's going to go away. It's not going to be like, oh, we're going to wage war against these guys. The farmers and people are just going to realize there's an alternative, and they're just going to choose not to buy their stuff anymore.
Yep. Fantastic. And there's so many ways to grow food healthy, organic, non-GMO.
Yeah.
One question here from Berlin, Germany. Reichman asked, do you know Ms. Keman Goguin and her place in the financial system?
Who?
Kim Ann Goguin.
Is that the Kim Possible individual that we
I've
hear
seen
about
some
all the
videos
time?
of her, and she claims to be on top of the world financial system and so forth.
My contacts have given me zero validation of that. So I don't know her. So I don't know exactly. I certainly haven't seen her evidence that she would be in that. I can just tell you this. Anybody that would be in a position that she's claiming to have that kind of control and comes out openly and says it could be suspect. Why? Because you'd be dead tomorrow if people knew. Okay. So if she's walking around freely and no problems and no security issues, there's probably nobody worried about that.
Yeah.
That's all. That's the only thing I can say about it.
All right.
We just have to think logically about some of this, and I'm not saying she's not a good person or doesn't have, good intentions. I mean, she may be all of those.
Okay, CJ Tran, you have your hand up.
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Tonson and Will. Much love to you. Thank you for what you're doing. My question is, do you know of Jared Rand?
Yes. I've spoken with him a few times.
Do you have an opinion of if he's of the light, good?
I didn't get any vibes from him that was nefarious in any way. He says he's got some technologies that he wants to bring to the world, and I hope if he does have that and can help us all, then I'm for it.
Thank you. And my second and last question is, have you heard of Zora of Hollow Earth, or a being named Colonel Billy Woodard?
Only that I've heard of them. I don't know much about what their position, what they're purporting.
Okay. Because,
sorry, I can't help you much on that one.
No worries. I'm asking because I've been following them for about 4 years.
Okay.
And it resonates, and it's similar to what you're speaking about transition to a new earth.
Yeah, what's amazing is you're going to begin to see this accelerate, where people all begin to rise up and begin to be united in moving humanity forward. And so you're going to have a lot of people that want to do things, and they'll jump forward and do them. And I'm in favor of all that. I had somebody ask me one time, hey, why don't you guys work with us, and we'll set up this program where we can bring all the projects in and we'll make sure they get funded and everything. And I said, no, I don't want any part of that. Like, what are you talking about? That's what you do. And I was like, it is what I do. I said, but the idea that we be the one-stop shop and people can't go and do it themselves, I says, that's an important idea to me. It really is, because I want 1,000 people like me that are doing humanitarian projects. I think there should be millions of us blessing each other and blessing the world. And so anything that I can do to help somebody, and if they're on a path to try to help and bless others, I'm going to be right there with them. I'll be shoulder to shoulder and support that. And I think you're going to see a lot more people come together and begin to do this, and to begin to create new ideas, new projects, new businesses, things that can really make a difference for us going forward.
Fantastic. Okay. Here's a $1 million question for you from Eric. He says, do you see the RV and rollout of MedBed's light replicators free energy before the midterms this year or next year?
Well, like I said, everybody wants to know timing, and
Right.
I understand the angst over that. I think things are moving. I can just give you a personal opinion, and you know, I could be in left field, so you guys can take this however you want. But I think we're seeing the events line up and moving at such a pace that it would actually surprise me if it went, if the midterms came before this finished. I just think it's moving at such a pace that that would surprise me. I could be wrong, and maybe it does go that way, but I think things are moving along at such a pace right now that, you know, and maybe by the 4th of July, we have great news. You know, maybe we do have a restored country. We'll see. I think a lot can happen in a very short period of time. If you look back on all the, you know, we've heard, and those that follow the back channels and the Q movement and stuff like this, that we're dropping information. One of the things that Q said was it will be biblical. So everybody's like, oh, what does that mean? What is that? What's going to happen with this? If you look at several of the biblical events, and whether that's the parting of the Red Sea or some of the other big ones where it was, you know, it was an obvious hand of God moment, they occurred in 24 hours. It happened very fast. And so there's no reason to think that we also couldn't have this move very, very quickly for us, and that we could have get the relief that we're seeking.
And all the suppressed technologies will be coming out as it's safe to bring them out as fast as possible, I'm sure.
Well, I know that there's med beds coming, and I know that there's several models, and I've actually seen photos and talked to some folks that are working on those. So there's several different models coming. We've got some healing centers we're going to do. We're wanting to get beds, you know, make them available to people. I'm sure many of you out there, you know, I hear from people all the time, oh, we got to get healing centers. Yeah, we do. There's 7.8 billion people on this planet, and everybody needs at least a few minutes in one of those.
Yep. J.A. asks, do you know if the original Queen Elizabeth has truly been executed or incarcerated? If so, has she been replaced by an alliance-backed actor or cabal based?
She's already been removed. However, the announcement of her passing has not occurred yet. I do think that'll happen simultaneous with a few other events that are about to occur. You know, I'm hearing right now on the banking side that, you know, Russia is gold backed. China is about to announce, from what I'm hearing, and you have several other countries about to announce, Brazil, India, looking at also doing that. So it's interesting because these are the BRICS nations, right? but if they do that, that kind of ends the Fed. What do they have that can challenge an asset-backed currency? They can't. And some things could come down very quickly. So, you know, I watched an interview Trump did 2 days ago where they asked him about stocks. Have you got any stocks? He said, no, I'm not in the stock market. Well, you might want to pay attention to that. He knows something's coming. Okay. He knows something's coming. There's some real adjustments that we have to go through. And I think that the Queen's death will come almost simultaneous with some of the financial issues, is what I'm saying. So could that happen next week? It could. They have all the preparations made for her announcement for the funeral.
Mm-hmm.
They're ready. It's just a matter of whenever they're given the go signal to do it. So there'll be announcement. You might have saw this last week. There was an article that came out saying, oh, she's delegating more of her responsibilities because she's not able to do everything anymore.
The soft.
Yeah, that was just a few days ago. That article came out.
Yeah, the soft disappearance.
Yep.
John, you are with your hand up, and I'm going to ask you to unmute and speak to us. John?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Hi, John.
Howdy. Where can a person get the plain seed and to replant with, and that it's not
Some of
GMO?
that, some of that's going to be available. There are strategic national stockpiles of
Yes.
these. Cheyenne Mountain is loaded with it, to be honest.
Correct.
It's still locked up, however. Trump sealed it in 2020 and is yet to be opened. Isn't that interesting? So we're waiting to hear when they're going to open up Cheyenne Mountain. That was in preparation. Usually it's only sealed up if you're in danger of a nuclear war situation. So could we have a big scare event that is a nuclear war? I think it's very probable. But I'm not worried about whether we're going to get access to the seed, because it's already been protected, and it'll come forward, and I think there'll be enough for everybody.
Yes, I just want to if it was available for people anywhere right now.
It's available in smaller quantities.
Where?
It's available in smaller quantities. There's actually several seed companies throughout the United States that specialize in heritage seed.
Okay.
There was one that I was familiar with in Missouri that was doing some great stuff, but it's not like mass quantities where you're planting millions of acres of corn or anything. It'll take a little time to build up to that. But what we're going to find is that not only are the plants going to grow better when we get back to heritage and we restore our soil, but you're going to find the flavor of the fruit and the nutritional content just goes right through the roof. It's going to be like double what we have now.
That's what I was anticipating. I was curious to where person get access to that now, get a head start.
Well, we've done some tests with the soil amendments already, and have found that in the first year we've been able to raise antioxidant levels up over 50% just in the first season.
Yeah, I have access to worm casting. That's what I was using to grow with, and I was curious where we can access even small quantities, because I can re-raise, harvest my own seed and reproduce, and I was wanting to get the start,
of course, yeah. There's I'll see if I can't get the name of that company that they do all heritage seed, and if you're just talking about your own garden and stuff, they can supply you.
Yes, that's what I'm after.
Yeah, I'll try to get that over to Tonson. Maybe he can include it on the next newsletter.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, John. And
I know about this company because my brother used to live down the street from him.
there's a similar question in chat from Shirley. She says, how can I find out about the soil regeneration? I have inherited a vast amount of family land in the Caribbean. Thank you.
We're actually going to be putting a plant in the Caribbean to provide product. Worm castings is an ingredient in any natural product, as the previous gentleman was talking about. We have a lot of other things that go in other than that to grow and develop this. I would say right now we're probably looking at, I think 2023 might be a little optimistic, because the time we get the plant up and going and operation, we might be 2024 before it's like just, publicly available and you can get all that you want. That's what we're shooting for. Okay. Is 2024. But by the time we get past that, you're going to find that Miracle Grow is like nothing after you've tried this stuff. It's going to be amazing.
Some people are asking if you have a website.
About the soil products. Not yet. That's on purpose because we didn't want to get ahead of production, because the moment people find out, everybody wants it. And this has been 20 years in development. And we're going to be, of course, taking some of the release of funds and building out the manufacturing capabilities. The Caribbean and North America will be where it launches. So that'll be the first places that get it.
And what we can do, Will, is when you have something you're ready to go public with, I can put it in the BIC newsletter.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And we'll do that as we're ready. It's one of those things where it's like, you know, the moment you put that out there, the phone's ringing, and we don't want to talk about it. We want to actually deliver packets of the product. It's amazing what just sprinkling a little bit of this stuff in your pot, whether you've got raised beds or potted plants or whatever, can do. I've seen some. We've been able to take stalks of corn, which typically runs about 1.6 ears average per stalk. Okay, that's your typical corn yield. And within the first year, the stalk's trying to grow 5 ears. Now, you won't ever develop 5 ears to maturity because it takes time to build your soil to a level that can support 5 ears per stalk, right? Mm-hmm. But those are things that are going to be coming from out. So, I mean, 20-30% yield increase first year, not unheard of, and sustainable thereafter. So, yeah.
Will, you have a live wire audience. I don't think we're going to have enough time to get to everybody. We've got 55 more messages we haven't gotten to. Maybe we can take one more hand up. And we're almost getting into 2 hours here, so maybe we should wind it up soon. But can you take one more? Yeah,
we can do another. We can do one more.
Okay, Eileen, you have your hand up. I've asked you to unmute. Go ahead.
Thank you for a wonderful call. I'm from New Zealand. It's an absolutely amazing call. We're working with a lot of these projects here, but I really wanted to tell you that Javi has had a hand up for a very long time. So I'll yield and pass my slot to Javi.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Eileen. And Javi, go ahead. The talking microphone has been passed to you.
Okay. Firstly, Taz and I say thank you at the end, so please don't mute me out so I could finish my questions.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay.
Well, I think you muted me because I had some sort of emergency flooding here and they went, but Will, I have several questions. The first one is, I don't know if you addressed the termination of our media, which seems to be the problem that we're facing throughout this planet. We don't seem to want to get rid of this fake, fictitious, causing trouble for good people, leaving them in. So that was one. And part two of that was, will there be instructions for the EBS when it comes? And three, can you address duplication, triplication of projects? How are they going to handle? A lot of people are building cities, building clinics. There's so much duplication, and I'm not sure if there's a way to address that, if people are just going to be resurfacing those. So all three of those.
Well,
thank you.
Okay, I'll try to cover each of those. First of all, the media. In regards to the media, they have been given numerous warnings and have been told to begin to speak the truth. Those that don't, and you're seeing some of them, are hanging themselves. Because when the truth is exposed, no one will touch them or listen to anything they say. So some of them will completely go away under their own malfeasance. it's just going to be over. Nobody's going to listen. I mean, look at CNN's viewership today versus 18 months ago. It's down 90% from what it used to be.
Right.
That tells you that people are not tuning in. So I don't think it's going to be completely necessary to shut everybody off, but there's going to be, when the EBS happens, that's going to be a situation where all networks must share the message. And honestly, they have the capability of interfering and taking over their broadcast. And there's nothing they can do about it.
But CIA controls media, and BlackRock and Vanguard controls the media. So I don't know how they can interfere with that.
They're letting this play out because they have control in the back. You know, what's interesting about even with the Starlink system is it's a low Earth orbit satellite system, and they've got thousands up there now. The big media companies are using satellites that are way up there. Well, what happens when you direct an energy field that's lower than they are? You cut off their signal. And they have the ability to just shut them off. So they're letting them do what they do right now. You know, why interfere with the enemy when they're destroying themselves? So they're letting them do that. And I think that you're going to see a couple more weeks of really, really not so crazy. Okay. I do. I just think that this is going to hit a crescendo of really crazy. Okay. I'm not afraid of that because I know that's coming and I'm actually expecting it. So when I start seeing a lot of that, I'm just going to be like, okay, here we go. We're getting close. Okay. In regards to, remind me the other question after the meeting.
Well, the other one was the instructions when we do get EBS, and the third one was duplication and triplication of projects. And how is the military going to control that, or who's going to control that, or are we going to just go rampant on our developments at will and at random? How's that going to work?
So in terms of instructions, that's already been prepared. The EBS messages have been prepared. They have all the video ready to go, and they're going to be able to send that out. And everyone's going to get an opportunity because they're going to loop this several times for everybody to see it all. Excuse me. So the challenge is going to be for us to just be there for our neighbors when this happens, because there's going to be lots of questions and people are going to be getting to ask things. And that's when you just need to help them along. Okay. Be kind, be gentle, and let's help each other. In regards to projects, excuse me, I need some water.
And also, how can we contact you, Will?
I'm not ready to put that information out there, but probably the next one that we do of these, we will do that.
Okay, thank
you.
So, and thank you for the New Zealand lady for noticing me.
I know, it's very, very kind. I have some wonderful friends in New Zealand, so they're great people. I love the Kiwis. It's regarding the projects, there's not really going to be, okay, we need to register this and register that because this guy's got a healing center and this gal over here's got one and that guy's doing one over there. Great. They're going to let everybody choose to build what they want to build. And I know that might sound a little chaotic, okay, but there's not going to be somebody saying, okay, you need to use this design criteria and that design criteria. I think everyone's going to choose something that is beautiful inherently. If you're going to build it, build something beautiful. And I remember Trump talking to the military, asking them why all of their battleships were so ugly. Can't you make something a little more beautiful? Thought that was funny. he talked to them about that. But and actually they're working on, they're actually beautifying some of them. So it's really interesting. I think that it might seem a little crazy to just have triplicate, quadruple, whatever, 10 different projects going of a similar type, but they're all a little unique. They're all kind of unique to the individual doing those projects, and they're putting their own unique spin, their own unique flavor to it. And certain people are attracted to that. And so I think it's okay to have different projects that may look similar, but they'll all be individually unique. And I think people will gravitate to those that they connect with the most.
Thank you so much, Will. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Thank you, JB.
Well, you're welcome, Tance.
So, Will, my gosh, we could go on for hours, but
when we get into project stuff, it can get really, that's the fun part. That's the really fun part. And we're about to launch into fun. Okay. We just got to get past this wacko moment that we're entering right now.
One of the chat questions was, please talk about your humanitarian projects. And forgive me, that would be a whole webinar into itself.
It would. We have there. I will tell you that the first things that will be launched are infrastructural things.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you the 30-second version. It's hard to do a 30-second version, but I'll do my best. We have new concrete coming. No cement. 3 times stronger. Completely watertight. Doesn't crack. Has some flexibility to it so that it doesn't crack. We're going to be able to do some incredible things with building structures they'll go up quick, they'll go up fast, and they'll be monolithic, and it's going to be incredible. That's huge. That's a very big project because it's going to affect building all over the world. And we've been working very hard to secure all of the natural resources so that we don't have any supply chain issues. So that's one. I'll talk about it in the future, and the name of it and stuff, but that's just one. We have a new digital infrastructure that we are a part of, building out, super fast, super efficient, and the best part, completely private. And there'll be a time to release that too. Really awesome. Water, a lot of people working on water, wanting to have more clean, available water. We're going to be doing structured water because we want it to be the most bioavailable for the body. And we've got some really great technology that we're using to make sure that it's that's amazing. I wish I could spend a whole thing on just talking about water. Power, free energy is coming, folks, and it's coming very soon. The infrastructure is there in the background. I know you probably don't realize this now, but we already have a grid in most places of the world. So don't expect that to just turn off because you don't need it anymore. They'll just power it with the free energy, right? So you'll still get it. But I think meters will be removed. Everyone will get it because it's just part of being a human. Okay. So free energy is coming. And with free energy comes a lot of other really unique things. And that is, most technological advancements require some form of energy to move them forward. So you're going to see things that may not be possible before suddenly become possible. Like for instance, I had somebody ask me one time, well, couldn't we take like an old building in a city that maybe is not being used anymore, and couldn't we just put grow lights in there and we could just grow food right in the heart of the city? Of course you can. The only limitation is, do you have power to run the grow lights? Right? It's really the only issue. And so if you've got free energy, suddenly that becomes viable. And now fresh from the plant to the table becomes available for everybody, right? And so these are things that are going to come as we go forward. So water, building new advanced building products, free energy, our communications, and how we do those are infrastructurally things that we're all working on simultaneously, as well as rebuilding the soil. So that's a bit of a foundation that we're working on initially. So many other projects come off of that. There's hundreds of them. And we will be at a certain point, we're going to open the door to let additional projects come in. We do have a process of vetting how we go through projects, and we have a management process to make sure that every project is fulfilled, that it meets the measure of its creation, right? And so those are all the best business practices and best ways of doing things. And so we'll provide that for you guys as we go forward. The funding is there. There's plenty of funds, and some people have the funds, but they don't have the ability. We've got a couple of groups that are bringing us their projects, and they just want us to do the management side of it. And we have the capability of doing that. So there's going to be a lot of ways I think that we'll be able to help folks going forward with our foundation. So I'm excited about it. I can't wait to share it with everybody, hopefully in the near future.
Yes. And Catherine, thank you for mentioning primary water. There has been, as you know, Will, vast amounts of water. But there's this deliberate misinformation, disinformation put out by the powers that were that, oh, there's a shortage of water. There is no shortage of water. They're just hiding it. They're not accessing it. Same with oil. Jerome Corsi wrote the book Black Gold Stranglehold, which proved that there's unlimited oil all over the world. Not only that, the earth is still making it. And that the idea of an oil shortage was, again, to make the prices go up. It was a lie. So all this idea that there's a shortage of water, shortage of oil, shortage of food, shortage of money, shortage of what, right? We're going to put that silly concept into history. No more. There's going to be truth going out that the universe is an abundant place. We're not going to believe in shortages anymore.
Oh, no, there's guys, I wish I could impart to you some of the things that have been shown to me. There is unlimited resources, unlimited. And the only reason for lack of anything is self-inflicted by some evil plan.
Yep.
That's the only reason.
Well, thank you, my friend. And thank you everyone for participating. This has been fantastic once again. Let's go ahead and wrap it up before.
All right. Thanks everybody. I appreciate being with each of you because Tonson, your audience is so awake.
Yes,
I mean, their consciousness is and everybody radiates this light and this love. And it's always a joy for me to talk with each of you. I know we didn't get a chance to probably, open the line for everybody, but maybe over time we'll get to know each other. It's going to be fun. But if I can encourage everyone right now, if you're trying to figure out what do I do? How do I get through this? Don't worry about the crazy going on around you. Take time to go within yourself. Ask the universe, what can I do to bless this world, to bless the people? And follow that. Listen to your heart. Do that thing. And I promise you, it will lift you. You'll feel more buoyant. You'll feel light. You'll feel love. And you won't be bogged down in all this nonsense that's wrapping up.
Like JFK said, ask not what my country can do for me, but what can I do for my country? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, fantastic. Thanks again, Will. Let's continue next time. Please take care. Take care, everyone.
Very good. Have a good night, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Enjoy.